Welcome to another edition of FUTStock, where we discuss all things FIFA Ultimate Team. I am Matt Aguilera.
And I am Matt Metz-Lambourne.
And well, last week, something came out of the bag that was quite significant. It was my new super system that I've invented, that, doesn't take that much invention really, and it seems to have done rather well, and there's been lots of you tweeting me and telling me you had great success with it. There's been some complaints, but to that I say, make your own tactics instead, if that's how you feel. So, we're going to discuss more about that tactic, the system itself, how it plays into the FIFA engine and works for you, and also about my first weekend league use of the system and how I did. The results may shock you. We're also going to be looking at the new squad building challenges. Plenty have turned up, and it's a good time to question what we should be doing to plan ahead and what kind of players you should be buying. We've got old Black Friday just around the corner. That's right, around the corner. We're also going to be talking about our kits of choice. We've had some community submissions, thank with that, international marquee matchups, and of course, our novelty info of the week will conclude with our patented yet stolen scene out of the show. So, Mets, because I wanted to work on it a little bit more. You've took it upon yourself to use it in a system as well. So, tell me your side of the story. I'd be interested to know.
Okay, so last week you came up with the revelation of going for a very narrow formation. So you went 4-1, 2-1-2 narrow.
Yes.
And told us about your experience of that and the logic behind it, and it all made good sense. I thought, yeah, I'll give that a try because I'm not winning rampantly or anything with the 4-1-4-1 I was using. So I thought I'd give it a go. And I tried it pretty much as you described it, but I think I lacked the personnel to do it justice, particularly the right kind of CDM. I found that the CDM was slowing things down because I was using Inform and Zonzi of all people I thought would be excellent. But I think I would prefer him in something like a 4-2-3-1 or 4-2-2-2 where there's two defensive midfielders, because defensively speaking, great, but his dribbling and his turning circle are awful. So if you're trying to do intricate passing triangles, it wasn't working for me. So I adjusted your theory. I went 4-3-1-2.
Yes.
In Kante as the central of those central midfielders, the middle one of the three. And the reason for that being is that he's up and down the pitch with high work rates. He's quick, decent at dribbling. He's basically a really good all-rounder, isn't he? But he also performs a central defensive midfield function because he's got really high interception. So he plugs the gap and contributes to the attack a lot better than a traditional CDM. So for me, that was the missing link then. I started to have a lot of success. I think I'm in the final of a weekend league qualifier still to play, but I couldn't get on tonight because of the patch that I need to download first.
Right.
But pretty confident it's going to see a big upturn in my form. I'm actually really enjoying the system. And it's nice just to be able to ditch wingers because it gets a little bit samey in terms of the type of squads that we build over and over again, because we want those elite wide players that unless you're like tremendously good at dribbling and really good at skill moves, you're not going to get full value for money out of them, which is better if you can be tidy and technical and dominate the centre of the park instead.
Yeah, so that's very heartening for me. I mean, we have spoken about it, obviously, offline and got our take on it as well. But it's nice to hear other people talking about it and enjoying it. So I've had plenty of tweets saying that people have used it and experienced an info, a turnaround in fortunes, which is spot on.
Shall we give a good example of that? Our friend and regular listener of the show, Steve at NY Jester, he is admittedly not a great FIFA player. He's often asking us for help in coming up with new tactics and stuff.
Yes.
So he was more than happy to give your theory a try, and he just started smashing people. He's getting like 5, 6, 7 nils against people who couldn't believe what was going on. That's not going to say he's going to do that every time.
Of course.
He just really saw an upturn in a positive way in terms of how his game changed. So I thought that was a really good acid test that we took. A player who, let's say, is sort of average ability, and he just suddenly started playing better than he had done the entire game so far because he was sticking to the type of formations we all like to play, which are the 4-3-3 variants and stuff like that.
Yeah, and there's somebody else who got in touch and said that tried your 4-1-2-1-2. I have a crap 33% win record. Look, say thank you, played with it.
Ronaldinho got an 8-2 the first game he played with your formation.
Oh, yeah, he did. See, I've forgotten all the things that have come through. I've looked at them all. I've replied to them all, hopefully. And if I didn't, I've definitely liked them and retweeted them.
Yeah.
Somebody actually hashtag Matt FIFA God, which I find hilarious given the fact that 4 weeks ago I was saying this with the FIFA 17 was complete shit. That's hilarious. But so I think it's probably a good idea to expand on the system a bit more since I've played so many goddamn games with it now. And I have found its flaws, which this is why I didn't go too much into it. Last time I gave out the theory and the bare bones of what it would be. And I hope that people will go along and do something with it and go out and enjoy themselves and they would get success with it, which bringing possession into it has helped dramatically. And the theory game-wise is that dribbling is incredibly hard to do now. I'm not saying that you can't be a good dribbler, but I'm saying from a pick-up and play perspective, it's just incredibly hard to do. And for somebody who's been in FIFA as a foot founder, I find it hard to dribble on the wing like I used to and be able to cut inside and do all this kind of stuff. So I took what I knew about the game and said, right, okay, let's try and change to a different tactic that respects what one of the best, easiest things that is to do in FIFA right now, which is pass the ball. So, like, it's meant to be like tiki-taka, but it's not really. I mean, those aren't the viewpoints I would give. But right now, what you should see on your screen is the custom tactics that I have been using. I will go down those with you as well. So you have to go into custom tactics and go put your build-up play on freeform, put your chance creation on freeform. The reason for this is, the reason why this works better is it stops your midfield 4. So look at me just a second. In a quartet, so defensive midfielder, attacking midfielder, and the 2 centre mids, they will move around. Now, you might want your defensive midfielder not to stay there, but the thing is, though, because they're so nice and tight because of the possession of this system, they will move around, and that makes coming up with chances and also keeping the ball a lot easier. So speed 70, I've put that down to 65, passing 90, passing is at 85 and chance creation. Now I've put crossing down to 20. I just don't get into wide areas and cross. Shooting at 75, pressure at 70, aggression, I think have I put it up to 60 now? No, I've left it on 50. And team width, I put like massively high. There's a reason for this, and I can explain it quite well. And it does give the system a flaw on counter-attacking, but it helps immensely with possession. It means your fullbacks will be right at the edge of the actual screen. And that's a good thing when you've got possession in the middle, because the fullbacks are going to push up, and it means then that you can dominate the right-hand side or the left-hand side. And that isn't, I would recommend at this point, this is one of the things I've learned, is that it's amazing what happens if you get like a right back in this system, and he becomes a right winger essentially with the ball if you pass to him. It's amazing what happens if you stop with him and just keep passing instead, or if you bring the ball a little forward and carry it and then pass instead. It's amazing what happens to your chance creation. People are so expecting, and they're so pre-programmed to expect to cross. They will block this area as much as they can, which is what you want, because you want to retain possession and make the intricate movements to make sure that you can get more chances to come in. So either left-hand side, right-hand side, it doesn't matter. You've got to think of your full-back as an extra midfielder who's not there to bomb on and get across it. That's not to say you can't exploit that space, but you need to be seldomly doing that, like once or twice a match, in my experience. And what else do we need to talk about? So the reason why we use the extra width is that it pulls your centre-backs really far apart, which sounds awful, but it means then that your defensive midfielder will come and sit back in your central line of defending, which is a good thing. It means then you'll have 3 defenders if you lose the ball in the middle. Now, the other reason for good width as well, it means that when you keep the ball at the back, obviously it's far easier, and it means that if you get any of the balls from the left or the right-hand side, that you've got more of a chance of retaining. So where does it become weak? If you lose the ball in the final third, so around the box, and you get counter-attacked, then you could be in a lot of trouble because you'll usually only have 2 centre-backs coming back. So the way to counteract this is obviously have your left and right backs on stay back, or go to ultra-defensive. Don't poo-poo it. Let me explain. All ultra-defensive does is bring your defensive line down the pitch. It brings everybody down. If you're using possession, it doesn't actually matter that much. All it means is if you lose the ball, your defensive line is going to be a bit further back, and your full-backs, crucially, are going to be further back as well. Now, that's just one way of counteracting. Against a better player who's a lethal counter-attacker, if you discover that and you manage to get away with it, go towards ultra defensive. There's nothing wrong with it whatsoever. It doesn't make your team turgid, because don't forget, you're always going to be keeping the ball. That's the main thing. So, when it goes into the weekend league, I got to... how many games did I get in? We were talking about this at the time.
You didn't quite finish the 40, but you went like 30 odd, didn't you?
I did. Well, I got to a certain point, and I had 18 wins and
12 defeats, I think you said.
It can't be 12 defeats. It was ended up being a lot more than that, unfortunately. But I forgot which point we got up to. I forgot how many games were left. I think I had 12 games left and 18 defeats. So it was something like I had 8 defeats and 18 wins, or 10 losses. So 10 losses, 18 wins. That's where I was at. And then I went on a spree where I lost like 10 games in a row. That's no exaggeration. Literally 10 in a row. It was savage. And the one big thing that happened in all those games is I came up against better players. Some luck didn't go my way, of course. We all experienced that. But the main thing that happened is that I didn't do any of the ultra-defensive work. If I had done, I wouldn't have lost as many games. I would have lost 6, let's say, out of some of them, because some of the players were just far, far better. They were just far, far better than what I'd come up against previously. And you get like one chance. I don't know if anybody's experienced this, but I came across players who were absolutely horrendous at defending, but unbelievable up front. Like literally out of this world, like a lot better than what I would say I am. Like they were genuinely completely threatening, and I just didn't want them to have the ball at all. But then when it came to defending, they were just terrible. So you expect that if I got a chance and I could just go through, then Hosanna. And if you do get that experience, what's the best thing to do against one of those players who is like that? Either switch to long ball or counter-attacking. So you need to keep thinking like this. And those 10 losses, if I'd been a bit more clever and not as angry, unfortunately, because I played them all in a row, I perhaps could have stemmed the tide. So we ended up, I actually played 40 games, and it was 20 and 20. So that's like a very neutral in the middle result. I would have, if I'd managed to win the last game, which I actually lost on penalties, unfortunately, my 40th game, that would have put us at 21 wins to get us at gold 2. As it stands, I'm due 30,000 coins and 2 packs of some sort. A decent reward, I suppose. That was a hell of a lot of talking, Mets, about the system.
It was, yes. So let me ask you a couple of questions then.
Yes, please do. There's things I'm not covering that I really want to, but I just keep... By the time you hear talking about it, you just forget, don't you? Look at sport because I'm a top-class athlete, of course, now that I've won a few games.
Gets into your blood fast. Anyway.
Yeah, go on, sorry.
What I wanted to ask is, you were coming up against people who were bad at defending. There is a theory floating around, and I know this can be done in regards to defending, that you can just rely on AI. So if you take control of a player further up the field and don't change that player, the CPU will defend for you. So, you know, like when you put your pad down and the computer does a certain amount of defending for you.
Yes, they do, yeah, of course.
And they're actually really good. They're not terribly easy to break down. Some people just don't defend. They're not interested in putting the work in. So
what that does mean is if that probably does make a lot of sense, because against those players, I could just run at them like FIFA 15 style and just blitz through the defence. So many people are doing that because I think that people have stopped doing it, like this whole like darting at people and just going like that.
Yeah.
Or just going left or right once causes chaos for some reason. So another one as well is off kickoffs. The amount of goals I've scored off kickoffs by just running at them, it's ridiculous. It's cut his back basically, because if that's the theory is correct, then there you go. It makes a lot of sense to do it.
Well, the good thing about those little changes in direction that you're referring to is they take advantage of centre-backs in particular who've got very low agility and balance, so they literally can't change direction with you as quickly as your attacking player can, particularly if you're using someone short like an Insigne or Giovinco. They are able to almost bend the laws of physics in terms of how quickly they can like turn and change direction, and they can really bamboozle you. So even if they're not the best finishers, they'll get amazing goal scoring opportunities because they can basically sit your defenders down on their arse over and over again. So that's what you're kind of experiencing there. But you've got to remember, though, this was your first weekend league, and I pre-warned you how difficult it is, and you really exceeded my expectations for you. Okay. I've only managed to do 22 matches in both the weekend leagues I've played. I've got 11 and 11 for wins and losses. And after that, I'm pretty much exhausted. I find the play really too intense for me to carry on. I'd love to do a 40-match weekend, but it's unrealistic for most people, I think. You've got families and other commitments, and that to be able to basically put in about 12 hours worth of game time or whatever it is, it's really, really draining.
I wouldn't recommend anybody play 40 games. It's too much. It's too much time spent on FIFA, which you might find quite strange from somebody who does a...
Well, it is if you had to put a lengthy qualifying campaign in as well.
Yeah, it's too much time. So I genuinely believe that. Just say, I'd like... Yeah, I think
I agree.
15 or 20 games. Here's the thing. If you're the kind of person that thinks they can play something like 25 games and get about 20 wins, I'd stop there. I wish I had. I wish I'd stopped early. I played essentially 12 games to gain nothing. Nothing whatsoever. Because, of course, it was only 3 more games to win to get onto the next stage. I just thought, I've got 12 games left. I'll get 3 wins out of that. In fact, my goal was to get right to gold 1. I wasn't going to stop there. I thought I was going to get about 25 wins at the end of it. 25, 26 wins.
But did you practice any like game selection? Like we've talked about in the past, whereby I don't play anyone who isn't registered their account in 2015 onwards because they're overexperienced. They're not making fair matching as far as I'm concerned. So I refuse to play FUT founders and people registered in 2010 and stuff like that. I mean, I get it all the time because I am a FUT founder. So
yeah, me too.
Games with me constantly before the match starts. So why shouldn't I do it back? I want to. It's all about enjoying the fun of the game and the competition as well. But there's so much reward on the line. Why would I give up my edge when I can achieve a lot of reward and packs and coins just to give someone else a bit more of an advantage? That doesn't make sense to me.
No, I understand what you're saying, but I've had the same problem as you. So I very rarely practice this game selection. I just think it's a bit of a what's the word I'm after? This is interesting. I keep doing this recently, but I just can't think of words. Maybe my brain's getting stupid because I'm playing too much FIFA. I often think that. Input bias, confirmation bias. I think it's very easy to think that's what's making things better. We have no way of proving otherwise, so I'm very sceptical about it actually being useful.
Well, it's a theory. We're not saying it's absolutely right, but it just stands to reason that if you played 10 matches and all of them are against accounts made in 2016, there's more chance of them being new players than old players. That's all we're saying.
Yeah, which I don't think is it's unreasonable to say that. I just think that I'm just.
Yeah, you're not interested in it. That's fine. I'm just saying that might be something someone can do to try and alleviate a bad run. But one thing you should definitely advise people who play weekend league, you've got to take breaks like fairly regularly. Especially if you lose 2 or 3 in a row, you should just walk away because you're bound to just get worse and worse because you do get angry and upset because you've been very competitive. Yeah,
it's a very competitive game, isn't it? It's strange. I could play anything else, and I'm not going to say that I don't like expleat out loud when I play other games because I do if some things don't go my way. But there's something about FIFA that really gets to your psyche, and it's so personal somehow because it's just one against the other, and it's a time match. There's loads of pressure, and you really do feel it in the weekend league. And those 10 matches in a row, I quit out of at least 3 of them.
Well, some people would say it's FIFA at its worst.
It is FIFA. I would agree it's FIFA at its worst, definitely.
In terms
it's nowhere. I can honestly say at least 20 of those matches were not fun. I didn't have fun playing. And I'm not saying those are ones that all those lost. Of course, all the ones I lost, No, that's not a lot of fun. Obviously, the cumulative effect of these them all at one time. But yeah, I'm not that invested in the weekend league after my experience this weekend. Even if I'd got the 25 or 26 wins anyway, it was just so much time. I could have been doing so many other things. It's all a bit meta, I suppose, but because we're a FIFA show and that's what we talk about. But I think there is something healthy about telling people to play a balanced amount of FIFA and do other things. And I wish I'd done more other things this weekend. I mean, I even dreamt about FIFA the other night. Like, it's ridiculous.
Yeah, I totally get where you're coming from, but this is all part of modern day sort of game design. They try and make you exclusively play one game all year these days in terms of DLC that comes out and locking you into a certain ecosystem. And it's like, if you want to take part in the most exciting element of FIFA this year, which is the weekend league, you're pretty much going to have to play FIFA all week, which great for EA, not so good for everybody else. And we're not complaining. I really like the weekend league as a concept, and I think the changes they've made to it recently are all fantastic. But will people play it all week, every week for the rest of the year remains to be seen. I think, given Christmas and lots of new games are coming out, it's going to be hard to maintain that.
Like, for example, over Christmas, I hope not to play it once. I'm being serious. It's just too much of a time sink, and it's such a one-on-one thing. It's not something I can share with anybody else, if that makes any sense. It's not a very shareable thing. So over Christmas, we'll be playing the weekend league. It's just too much. It's very strange, isn't it? We're complaining almost about playing the game too much, but I don't know how else to put it to people.
It's not so much the time. I mean, time's a drain, but it's the intensity of the matches, because it's not a casual game of FIFA playing the weekend league, is it? It's 100% concentration. It's tactical thinking as you play constantly. It's having to adjust to everything that's going on in the game, and then trying to sort of problem solve the match as it's going. And it's hard work. It's not easy. And
of course, luck's involved as well in all that. So you can make all the right decisions, but it doesn't work out your way. And that means, obviously, it can go your way when perhaps on paper it didn't look like it should have been. Do you know what I mean? It could go just as easily the other way, but it's...
But overall, though, in sort of wrapping that segment up, your first go was mightily impressive. I was thoroughly chuffed for you. Perhaps the last few results took the shine off it a little bit, but there was one point where you were massively ahead, wins for losses. I was like, wow, he's done really well there.
Yeah, I was 18 for 10 at one point, something like that.
Yeah,
which is great. Yeah, I was very happy with it. I was like, fucking...
Yeah, I can speak for both of us on this one. We don't have elite teams, either of us, at this point. And so we're doing quite well in Weekend League with average to very good teams, but we don't have Ronaldo's, Messi's, and Suarez's.
I'm trying to think about who my highest rated player is. I've got nobody over 83 or 84 as far as I can think off the top of my head.
Well, that makes it even more remarkable then, because some people will win by the virtue of the quality of their squad alone, unfortunately. It's like I played someone in a weekend league qualifier final last night, and he had an all-legend team. Apart from Busquets in the midfield, he then subbed off for Petit for some reason. I don't know what the rationale for that one was. But he beat me 3-0, but I had all the ball, and he got 2 goals from penalties whereby I didn't even press a button to concede them. He just sort of bounced off a player that was standing still, and then some scruffy goal at the end when I was chasing the match a bit. So it's just like, when that happens, even though I've lost and I'm disappointed, I just think, God, if I had his plays, I would win that every single time.
I think that very often. After this session now, I'm thinking, God, if I had even better players, just how would things be working out for me now? But we've been down this road before, haven't we? We found actually sometimes if you're going to be buying these great players, then your team turns to mush. But we'll see. More to reported on.
Yeah, there's a very strange psychology with that, but that's something we can revisit.
There's one thing I need to just before we move on. I'd just like to go into some plan Bs that I've come up with.
All right.
It's in certain players. So those that seem to be counter-attacking very well, especially if they've got 2 strikers, I will move to a 3-4-2-1 system and then use that instead.
3-4-1-2, eh? Okay.
3-4-2-1.
3-4-2-1, okay.
So the inside forwards rather than wing.
Yeah.
So it's very attacking, actually. So I found that's useful. I've used it barely.
Well, that's the Antonio Conte formation, kind of, isn't it? Where he uses 4 3-4-3, but it's the same sort of thing.
Yeah, it's a 3-4-3 essentially, but it's 3-4-2-1. The system in FIFA with the inside forwards, and yeah, I've found that to be useful, but I haven't used it a great deal. 4-1-2-1-2, it's been excellent for me. The other thing has obviously been the ultra defensive thing. Do use it. There's nothing wrong with it in the weekend league, especially. You're up against really, really tough players most of the time who know what they're doing. And what was the other thing I was going to say? There was another system I'd used. Oh, can't remember now. What a shame. That's really been the only one, really.
I've just sent you a link that we can talk about this really quickly, but it's not something that we've planned to talk about. But I've just noticed a news story on Foothead News, which is ran by our friend Tom at Foothead, and a really interesting story's come out today, which I wasn't aware of until just now. Apparently, there is a ring of coin scammers that have been arrested, or the FBI have taken action against. They've managed to drain the sort of FIFA economy of $15 to $18 million worth of coins from like spoofing matches and multi-accounting and stuff. So when we were complaining about EA getting a little bit heavy-handed a couple of weeks ago and what they were doing in regards to banning players who perhaps are overpaying in squad building challenges, this kind of adds a bit of reflection to that. But there's obviously a massive black market for coins. We've always known that, but when you see figures like $15 million worth in one case, that's insane.
Just goes to show just how much people love FIFA, doesn't it? For one count. I mean, coin scammers should be going to jail. It's such a high-scale fraud, isn't it? There's so much money involved there. Someone like the FBI can't help but get involved. It's like, and it's probably from the perspective of that. Yes, it's preventing revenue for EA, but like, where's the tax money gone on that?
Yeah,
that's probably what it is.
It's always to do with tax.
Always follow the money in these kind of things. You know, there's some kind of Jordan Balfont out there now, isn't there, with a load of coins on some kind of boat, just throwing FIFA coins everywhere, being like, you can't do anything about it. It's all fake money. It's not fucking Margot Robbie anymore now. He's just going to be in jail. Well, have they been arrested yet? That's probably the point too. They're in court, are they? Or they're
yeah, it's in action, basically.
Yeah, it's a trial begun in Texas.
Don't be surprised if we see more of this, because this is very serious industry now.
Yeah, people are starting to notice this a lot more, aren't they? Like the Gambling Commission. They call the game or the Gambling Commission now in the UK. You know what I mean? Yeah. It's just the Gambling Commission, isn't it? The Gambling Commission, once the Gaming Commission, had a case against YouTubers, and a prominent one from the UK, of course, Nepenthes. We don't know what's come of that. He's still putting up content, all that kind of thing. But he does have a case to answer about what's happened with him as well. So there's a lot more eyes on FIFA and people taking money. There's a lot more eyes on it now.
Yeah, big time.
And people circumventing the terms and conditions. And when people see things like the FBI getting involved, things like that, you know, the UK is going to notice this kind of thing going on. I would think that a lot of YouTubers who may be doing things like coins or anything else, they may be quite worried now, and I think quite rightly, because all it takes is for one, if this process gets industrialised, like there becomes a formula, and there's a test case now going on.
It sets a precedence, doesn't it?
Yeah. So now, if they industrialise that process, and then if EA or stuff just be churning out lawyer after lawyer after lawyer, just going through the same process and sorting it out, it's quite scary. So I'm sure some people should do it to make a living, but there's obviously these guys, like some of these guys who were involved in this Texas case. Apparently, they were getting Lamborghinis off the back of this. So when you start doing stuff like that, people take note and they don't want to help you. It's just tough.
Yeah, it's amazing how people will sort of turn their back on you once you even vaguely relate it to something a bit dodgy. And this is probably a good time to get out of the coin selling business if you're involved. But we would never do anything like that. So
no, we wouldn't. Well, we've always been a strong advocate, even before we were affiliated with Foothead. We've always really advocated you don't buy or sell coins.
That's the whole point of FUTStock. It was to make the coins yourself, not have to buy them off dodgy dealers on the internet.
Yeah, and we'll never do like a coin sponsor thing or anything like that. No. We actually have been offered me and Matt via Twitter more than once, like kind of deals and stuff like that, and we don't want him, and we don't, for the sake of what is with the reach we've got, especially now with FUTStock. It wouldn't turn into a lot of money for us anyway. And even if it did turn into a reasonable amount of money, then we've got to kind of start pretending that coin sign's a good thing. Morally, we've set the case out. Principally, we've set the case out. It's already been done. We've said this all the time that, we understand the terms and conditions that EA put into place. It's not the same as breaking the law, but it will put your game under jeopardy. And we don't want you to be in that situation. And you don't need to be, especially the way the game is now.
You get a lot of satisfaction out of the game from being able to achieve these things on your own anyway. So even if you, let's say, put in a small amount of real money investment, but you achieve a lot more through trading that initial investment until you get a monster squad or something like that, that's far more satisfying than dropping a few £100 on building elite squads. So if I was to get on my soapbox, I would tell people to carry on doing that and carry on listening to FUTStock, because we will get you there. That is for sure. So why don't we talk a little bit about what happened last week with these 2 new full league squad building challenges that came out?
Well, I mean, one of them was good and one of them was terrible, isn't it? Now, let's be truthful. One's the Belgian league, unfortunately. So you could go and get some striker you're never, ever, ever going to use. He looks a complete turd for getting all the Belgian leagues. But of course, it does create Belgian league opportunities for selling players and that kind of thing, especially for the more obscure leagues. And the other one, of course, is the French league, where you get a Lacazette who basically...
You're going to have to spend about 150k to get it, though.
Yeah, and I think that's probably okay with how good that Lacazette... He's an 87 rated, and I think he's like 88 across the board for pretty much everything except defending.
Yeah, when you put it like that,
sensational card.
If an inform came out that had those stats, you'd probably pay more than 150k for it. So in that respect, great value. But it's hard work to get those players now, because people got on the bandwagon. They know which ones are the rarest silvers, and particularly,
yes,
they're the rarest of the rare, and they'll always go for 10k each. So there's a big market there for those players. So quite often they're going extinct. So it's not just a case of stumping up 150 odd k for Lacazette. There's a lot of work, a lot of snipe in the market going on there. I think these are things that EA didn't anticipate enough when they did these fully squad building challenges. These players are not numerous enough for everyone to be able to do them, even if they've got the coins, if that makes sense, or at least not in a timely fashion anyway. But cool card, though, the Lacazette one. It's absolutely fantastic. But I've decided to not do it because I won't play with League One this year. So I made a lot of money selling a lot of chaff that I had in my club, bronze and silver in particularly, like from clubs like Angers and stuff like that. You could sell them all for 10k. It was great. And then we had the Mike Jensen challenge. He won Norwegian Player of the Year, which was a bit of a funny one.
Yeah, I didn't bother with that at all, because when people were saying to me, like, you did the Mike Jensen one, I thought, all I thought was, to be truthful, who the hell's Mike Jensen?
Yeah, it's a pretty strange one. I haven't heard of him before either, but looked like a decent card to begin with, and the special variant of that is very good. I use him as an impact sub, and works out pretty great. He's very quick and good dribbler for a central midfielder. But again, very hard for you to utilise, like the Belgian League one that you're referring to. Not many people are going to put that card in its starting 11 unless they can link it to someone like Laudrup or something like that, if you've got the legend cards. Hard to make a really good Danish hybrid in this game. And I think it's fair to say that the Nordics deserve to have as much novelty representation as the rest of the leagues do. So for those people, absolutely fantastic. I bet they will pleased as punch that they've got their own special card, but for the mainstream, it's a little bit disappointing probably that there isn't something else. But there'll be lots of opportunities throughout the season to do lots more special cards, I'm sure. Like we had the Gareth Barry one right at the beginning and stuff like that. And I did the Ibrahimovic November one last night, and probably shouldn't have bothered for 15 game loan.
Games.
I can't help myself. I love doing squad building challenges.
I mean, I love doing the squad building challenges, but I mean, to get rid of a Masuaku or something like that, Masuaku even, and you actually put some decent players in that team, and also some of these Swedish ones who I don't care about. But to get rid of all them and then just have Zlatan 15 games, Sorry, it just doesn't do anything for me. It's 15 games. 15 games.
Yeah, it's interesting, but I wanted to try out the Zlatan card, so yeah, I couldn't help myself. But the whole point of this segment, talking about these full league squad building challenges, is it's probably fair to say that most leagues will get represented in this at some point, and we can't predict when they'll come up, but we can probably say with a reasonable degree of certainty that some of the better leagues are going to get these. So out of the ones who haven't come yet, you've got your main leagues like England, Spain, and Italy. League One's been done. Then you're looking at stuff like Russia, Mexico, Turkey. And the whole point of this is, should we be planning ahead for these leagues? And if you've got a few coins going spare, should you be trying to buy up all the players from a certain league that you're particularly interested in anticipation that it will eventually get its own full league squad builder? It's going to save you a lot of money if you do.
I think that you should be planning for them. It's all part of the speculation. And it's a typical thing now to do on FIFA. And obviously those challenges change from here on out. They become harder and harder and harder to do because people are getting wise, aren't they, to it? So any way that you can diversify your portfolio that's
a proper investment jargon.
Yeah. So the only way you can diversify your portfolio is completely fantastic, and you should be doing it. I can't think of any reason for you not to do it.
Okay, so out of the leagues who don't have one yet, let's say you can't build all of them. That would be very
you can't.
Expensive. Who would you go for at this point, given the current? And bearing in mind that Black Friday is coming up, so the cost across the board should come down completely. It's a great time to buy some players.
I'd do Bundesliga all day long, but it just depends who they pick, don't we?
Yeah.
That's the problem.
Mm-hmm.
That's the problem. So it's going to happen. But what they're going to do for Bundesliga, is it going to be somebody like is it Sule from like Hoffenheim?
I would have thought they'd have to do Royce as a special player because he's the picture boy of the game, isn't he?
Ooh, hang on a minute. That means then I should do La Liga because then I get James Rodriguez, he's wonderful again. I'd use the loan version of him.
Yeah.
What a card.
I think I would do Russia because there aren't any expensive players in Russia. So you could build the whole league at this card, which would be wonderful. And then you'd probably look at either Juliano, but he's got one to watch. So maybe they would go for someone like Danny or Promes, something like that.
Yeah, that'd be good. Other novelty leagues, maybe they'll do an Al Sola for the Saudi Arabian League. He's a cracking player. It's just such a shame that he's a crap nationality and he is from a crap league, in all fairness.
Yeah, it's even worse this year. There's far fewer good goal players in Saudi than there have been in recent years. But Al Soma, for people who haven't tried him, basically is the cheap Zlatan Ibrahimovic. Who got pretty much the same sort of profile and physical stature, 4-star skills and everything. So well worth 10k for the inform anyway.
I think he's well worth getting as an inform. Just a case of where you're going to fit him in. So maybe you could use that money more successfully along the line. One of the things that you're going to have to pick one of these leagues, aren't you? Just get them all and do it now.
Yeah, because they're really expensive to do once people know that the squad building is coming. Like to get that special Jonas card to do in Liga NOS was really expensive, and a lot of the cards are extinct. So you can either wait and see what happens and pay through the nose for your special card, or you can try and anticipate. And the market in FIFA 17 has been all about anticipation and speculation. And it's fair to say that most of the big leagues will get one eventually. It's a question of patience. If you build one now and your league doesn't turn up until the end of the season, well, that's just bad luck, isn't it?
It is bad luck, yeah.
But it's going to happen. So I'm going to probably concentrate on doing Russia because I enjoy playing with that league. I would quite happily recommend to people that they take their league of choice if it's not been done and try and do it now, but particularly if it's a league that doesn't have megastars. I mean, doing Serie A to a lesser extent, but more so La Liga is going to be super expensive because you're going to have to get all the Barcelona or the Real Madrid. Chances are they won't get one because it's just too expensive. Who can they put in to justify you building a full Real Madrid team, for example?
An informed James Rodriguez, I suppose. But then, if it's just a special card,
like Ronaldo and Bale to get a special James.
Yeah, this is the problem, isn't it?
It's too expensive. So I think big leagues that are lacking megastars will all get one. So Ligue 1 was a good example. Russia, Turkey, maybe Mexico.
J-League being new. Surely that's something that'd be nice.
Possibly. Yeah. Bundesliga, probably your most expensive player there is your Royce and Robben and people like that they are kind of attainable. So yeah, speculate to accumulate, folks. But I'm going for Russia because they're all less than 1,000, apart from maybe one or two rarer silver players. So,
and with all that in context, the actual Russian league, even though it is cheap, there are some very good players in there.
It specialises really well in certain areas, really good midfielders, but it lacks great strikers and great centre backs and goalkeepers. So hybriding into Russia is good because you can get a world class midfield for very cheap. But then you're probably going to have to plug some gaps at the back using non-Russian league central defenders, I would advise. But yeah, that's what I'm going to do anyway. So it's really interesting to hear what other people have in store, given that they dropped 2 at the same time. So it looks like we might get one every month to 6 weeks now where they drop 2 new ones in. So it's best to start getting planning now.
Yeah, start planning now. Get it done because you know this is happening. And Matt have warned you, so get amongst it, pick your league, take care of yourself, and then when it does actually happen, you can just submit all of your teams, get all the coins, get the special player, have a wank, have a good time.
Yeah, pop noodle on a wank, that'll do nicely.
Wonderful. So, kits of choices then, Meds. We've had some submissions, which is nice.
Yeah, I put a tweet out, didn't I? Because I was like, I've been using the Nottingham Forest kits since the beginning. And I do like them, but I just fancied a change that was lacking inspiration. So I was like, guys, help me out here. What kits are you using? So we've had a lot of responses, which is great. And I'll just read some of them off just so we can see what are the type of kits that our listeners are actually using. And are they a bit shithouse? And I'm sad to confirm some of them are shithouse. Like our friend Steve N.Y. Jester. He goes for Kasabian, although I'm sure he was saying that to wind me up. It says, fair chance that anyone wearing that is or should be on drugs, which I totally agree with. It's such a bad kit. That and the Ultimate Screen kit are just so...
Oh, they're awful. Worst kits going.
Yeah. Neil Martin at Maverick7578. He's using UCA and Mercia. I've not actually seen those, so... No, I'm not sure if they're any good or not, but it's good when you find a sort of novelty club that has a good kit and you kind of have a bit of exclusivity with it. Schmidt Wazanoff, who's one of our long-time listeners, he's rocking the China home kit and Inter blue kit, both look lovely in-game. I do like the Inter kit, I must admit, especially now.
The Inter kit is very nice, actually.
Now they've got the yellow trim back, it looks...
Yes, the yellow trim with the yellow socks especially is incredibly nice.
Yeah, very old school, so we like that one. Seabass at Seabass619. He uses Netherlands away, the one with the blue trim, which is, that's a good standard kit. At Jordan_Mount, he's currently using Al Hilal third kit, which costs 5k, and the Austria home kit, they're quite nice. He also likes the SC Ingolstadt away kit and ABX Niigata from Japan, and Juve's third kit are also good too. So that's quite an eclectic mix, isn't it?
It is an eclectic mix. Would you like to know my kits? I always go for nice kits, I do, and niche ones. Nothing compares to my last year, the Al Tawoon home kits, the white one with the yellow splash on and the blue splash.
Like graffiti.
Yeah, I just used that kit all the way through in the grey and pink away kit for Rayo Vallecano, which I loved. But this year, I've had to have J-League kits. That was the thing I set out from, because we were talking about J-League coming out. We said, oh, J-League will never be part of the story.
I think you've muted yourself by accident, mate.
Sorry, I had a sneeze coming, so I was hoping to save everybody from a sneeze, but it didn't happen. Anyway, so yes, J-League. I went through. I have bought every single J League kit, every single one. I've bought them all, and I settled on a couple very quickly. The only one I might change the home kit. I have to have I have a very strict rule that I have to have all of the same colour in my kits, all of them. Whereas I may use something like the Nike kits with the socks that are different. I wouldn't mind them. They don't offend me as much as the other ones. But I use FC Tokyo's away kit, which is all white, with a navy blue and a bit of dark red trim. But it's mostly white on the screen. And I use the Yokohama F Marinos away kit, which is like a two-tone pink. I absolutely love it. It's my favourite kit going. I use both of them. Don't clash with anything, apart from dickheads who both have to have the same colour, and use something like a white Milan kit, away kit, and another white kit. I don't know why I do things like that. And yeah, but I've never changed them. The same as soon as I found that Al Taroon kit, I think I paid about $4,000 for that when it first came out and you couldn't get it. I just used that all the way through FIFA, never changed it.
Yeah, fair shout. We've got a couple more from the fans. Paul Sharp at US Friendly Fire, he uses Morinense, I think that's how you pronounce it, away, which is a Liga NOS team, and the Roma third kit. They're both quite neat and simple, so I kind of get why he likes that. And one of our guests on the show in the past, Tyler Gluas, he uses Schalke at home, which is always a classically nice kit, isn't it?
Okay.
So that was the kits you were using. And for anyone who's interested in what I ended up going for after making the tweet, I settled on Milan home kit. And I've got a blue and white striped non-licensed kit from Argentina, which looks like an Argentina international kit, which I quite like. But I'm probably going to be in flux for a while on kits. I'm not quite settled on those just yet. I'm yet to find my niche.
Yeah, they both sound grim, to be honest with you. I think you've got much better suggestions on our Twitter account, so
probably
you should pick one.
Yeah,
No,
I've used some of them, like Albir X Nagata. They're really good. So
Albir X Nagatas are excellent kits with the lovely Japanese font on it. I love that kit. It's a good shout, that one. Thank you for all the suggestions. They're all really, really good. Yes, I'm happy with that. Moving on from there, then, there's actually a bit of a hot tip for today, kind of. In the last 24 hours, not only is Frank Lampard not retired, but Frank Lampard has left New York City, and of course, Steven Gerrard has left LA Galaxy. So this poses an interesting question because there's a January transfer window coming up. It's very likely either of these could, at least one of them is going to transfer to a European club. I know they're at that age now where most of them would go and get a coaching role, but I have a sneaky suspicion that either of them will do a 6-month contract somewhere in Europe. Especially Steven Gerrard, I fancy him for it more than Lampard. So here's the thing: those MLS cards are likely to go extinct unless they retire or unless they go into coaching. So there's two options. And we are suggesting that you should go out and actually buy these because they, especially this Gerrard card, the Gerrard card is a very high rated MLS card, and there's a good couple of reasons. Obviously, he's English, he's an MLS card, there's always going to be something coming up with MLS. And for squad builders, 84 rated players, not very expensive, is always very useful to boost your team rating. So we suggest getting a few of them because by January, you might be able to cash in on them already because they've got moved on to a different club. And MLS just isn't blessed with many good players.
Yeah. I don't think there's enough money in it to stock up on them. So don't go
I wouldn't suggest that either.
Transfer list, but literally just buy a Lampard and a Gerrard for your club and you'll use them in MLS events later in the season or for squad building challenges. Like Matt said, the high ratings are very handy. So at the time of recording this, Lampard's a discard price, Gerrard's just over 1,000. So yeah, getting them in your club, they'll definitely be handy at some point, even if they're not right this minute.
Absolutely. With that, mate, so that's a good place to wrap up that part. There's not much to labour on the points. But we need to look back at the international marquee matchups that we got some of them. We did 2 out of 4, if I remember rightly. And then we need to make some new predictions. So, Mets, how did the marquee matches work out for you?
Well, they missed out the old derby, Scotland v England, and there's a big uproar about that. Like, how can they miss that on Armistice Day? And it was definitely the biggest match of that round of fixtures, so why are they ignoring it? And I think it's fair to say that they obviously having to move around people who are over-investing and are planning too far ahead here and would have an unstable effect on the market. So sometimes they're going to miss the most obvious ones and perhaps do the reverse fixture later in the year. England and Scotland play again in June, and there won't be a whole lot going on in FIFA then, so why not have it then? So that makes perfect sense to me, although it didn't suit my needs on this occasion. But the two that we did get, and we were quite well prepared for, USA, Mexico, and Brazil, Argentina, which you can't argue with those two, absolutely huge fixtures. And there were a couple of other juicy ties that required a little bit more soothsaying, which were Wales and Serbia.
Which is a bizarre one.
Not a massive game, but it did make me think conspiracy theory that if people had to sort of use up some Welsh players for that, then there'd be fewer around ready for it if and when Joe Allen gets Player of the Month, hopefully later this week. So a bit of conspiracy theory in there. Nigeria, Algeria, I think we might have had on our list. I can't remember, but that's one of the biggest matches in Africa, so you can't really complain about that. So no harm done there. But more importantly, we need to look forward to this weekend, don't we? Because we don't care about what's happened in the past. We're all about moving forward. So we do have some suggestions for you. We haven't settled on a precise 4, or maybe we have actually. I've got 4 here potentials for this weekend. So Man United v Arsenal seems a logical choice.
Yes.
But it wouldn't surprise me if they skipped it, given what they've done lately. Our curveball of the weekend, we're going to go for Sunderland versus Hull. Now, not necessarily a quote-unquote local derby, but they are both relegation fodder, and it will be hotly contested. They're both desperate for points, and that result could condemn someone even this early to almost certainly relegation, because that's a 6-point swing there, if there ever was one. So we think that might be a curveball, possibly. And then we've got 2 dead certs, or at least they should be on paper. Dortmund v Bayern, probably the biggest match in Germany.
Yeah, it's like the El Clasico of Germany, isn't it?
Yeah, absolutely. And given that Dortmund's the only team that's really stood up to Bayern domination in the last 5 or 6 years, hard to see that not being in there, and that would be a pack spinner, given that people would need some big cards for that one. So you might want to look at some cheap Bayern Dortmund players, people like Joshua Kimmich or Bad Stuber, and you've got people like Smeltzer and Weidenfeller at Dortmund. There are cheap options. Kago is always discard for some reason. So you can probably accommodate for that one with cheap players, but you'll need to plan a little bit ahead in advance. And then the other main one of the weekend is the Madrid derby. So Atletico versus Real. I'm sure that would also shift some packs in terms of people needing to get stuff, or at least drain the economy a little bit. People will be buying some players there that they need for that one. So again, just a little bit of planning in advance can save you a lot of money. I certainly wouldn't recommend people start filling the transfer list up with players from any of these clubs, because one, they're too unpredictable at the moment. And the other reason being that there hasn't been a huge amount of profit from squad building challenges the last couple of weeks, because people are getting smart to them and planning further and further ahead. So you're probably just best planning for your own personal use on that one, just to save yourself some money rather than make a shitload of money.
Yeah, you're probably not going to make much, but the saving money is making money, especially in FIFA. When these squad building challenges pop up, you've been able to get a player for 800 coins, you later down give you 3,000 coins. It's money in the bank.
Yeah, fair point indeed.
Brilliant. So, Mets, rounded that part quite nicely. It's been a little bit of a longer show today, thanks to my tactic revelations. But there is another staple that we need to go through, which is, of course, our novelty info of the week.
Indeed.
So, Max, this has been your shout this week, which is pretty much 8 out of 10 of them. And I am very delighted to hear about this next one. I can't wait. And I'm so pumped about it that I'd like you to tell me about him in the form of a striptease.
That's quite unfortunate. You're pumped. But anyway, let's get to the player, shall we? So I was really chuffed with this team of the week. Lots of good potential novelty informs in this one, but this one that we've chosen really stood out amongst the other crop. And he's a centre-back from the Bundesliga, and he is German. And I think he's position converted from a central defensive midfielder, which will explain a few of the traits that we're going to go to in more detail. But the player that we have chosen is Kevin Vogt of Hoffenheim.
Ooh, okay.
He goes for about 13k, so slightly over discard. And the reason why he's above the discard price will become obvious as we go through this. So he was a towering and powerful central defensive midfielder with reasonable pace to begin with, which is great. Wonderful, right? 6'4".
Yeah. Oh, wow. 6'4".
Has 73 overall pace rating. And then we get into the nitty-gritty. 90 strength, 85 standing tackle, 85 overall physicality. Just really, really great defensive card. And because he has decent passing and dribbling, really suits this kind of system that you like to play, where you're wanting your defenders to bring the ball out of the back to aid and getting the attack started. I
would love this card. The only thing I can fault him for is at left-footed, because obviously a left-footed passing at the back, they're hard to come across. Yeah, which is why you love Daily Blind. But okay, the guy's right-footed, but who cares? So the quandary that we have here is he's a centre-back in the game for his inform, which is fine. You do a wonderful job at centre-back. But his stats, particularly when you drop in a certain chemistry card, are really fitting a world-class central defensive midfielder, aren't they? Definitely. I think he looks... I would give him back there all day long, because then he just becomes an absolutely monster. It takes him up to 89 defending, 90 physicals of 80 for passing, and using him at the back would be absolutely lovely. And of course, using him as a defensive midfielder, in some cases, would be even better. You could give him an increase on the old pace front, but I prefer him the passing instead. Yeah, I think his pace at 70 plus is more than adequate for a defensive player. So if you're able to sort of round off a few of the rough edges and make him that bit more exquisite on the ball, this is a worldie of a central defensive midfielder, or a very confident on the ball central defender like your David Lee kind of mould, or Naldo from previous years. What you should do, check him out with Artist. Takes him up to 82 dribbling, 84 passing, makes him such a good card. Doesn't make him quick, of course. You can't shoot with him, but you can do everything else. Makes him got 82 shot power, so he's not terrible. No, he's not a finisher by any stretch of the imagination. But what he is, it's a great little passer, and he's obviously a much better dribbler and quicker. Busquets, so becomes like an elite Busquets. Whoa! I'm in love with this card. I am. Elite German Busquets for 13k. I think I need to buy him, but I just haven't got a Bundesliga team. That's the problem. Yeah, but you might do later. I might do later. So should I take a punt on him, Mets? I reckon so. I couldn't imagine you could have a better player on the bench at worst case scenario. Can you imagine bringing him on in the 60th minute to lock up a 1-0 lead in the weekend league? Oh, God, he's so good. I love him. He's so well rounded. Even as with something like Artist, he just becomes ridiculous. So there you go. Kevin Vogt of Hoffenheim, a player who wasn't on my radar prior to FIFA 17, I must admit. But he looks the business. And he's strong as heck as well, isn't he? Even as he is normally, he's got like 90 strength. So superb. Wow. That is an amazing shout. He's like Naldo, but German. The German Naldo, that'll do nice. The German Naldo will do us, yeah. Perfectly. That's a great way to see us out, Mets. That's the end of another FUTStock. Well, I'm all about that German Naldo. I think that's what I'm going to use for the episode title. But yeah, that was good fun. Of course it was. So as always, it is tradition that I have to thank you for coming on. Thank you. I enjoy coming along. Brilliant. And with that, it's time for you to see us out of your passages. yet stolen goodbye.
It is indeed, folks. Have a great weekend. Hopefully Joe Allen gets Player of the Month so you can cash in on all your Welsh investments. And of course, until we speak to you again next week, don't have nightmares.
Try and watch UK.
Yeah.
Oh.